I took a class this past spring. For the very first time I took an improv class. I was never a performer as a young person. I never took acting classes. I was never a theater kid. I was never on stage as a high schooler performing. I was not that. So this was very new for me. Here I was, 56 years old, taking an improv class for the first time. My teacher was sharing some really profound lessons about embodiment, not using that language at all. But the class that I took as an embodiment practitioner, coach, teacher, experiencer was deeply, deeply, deeply transformational and profound for my embodiment practice. Again, that was not the purpose of the class. There was no language, no vocabulary in that regard in that class. But it was happening. It was happening. Here's what he said that stayed with me. And it was something he said in the first class, and he repeated it every week for 6 weeks. And then I took it with me after the class was over. And I'm paraphrasing because it's been a few months. That bird sounds crazy. I love the birds around here. He said, don't talk about what you're doing. Just do it. You can talk about it later. So in improv, we had a bunch of exercises and games that we played to teach us spontaneity, to teach us how to relate to each other, to teach us how to connect with other people, non-verbally, verbally. And the prompt and the coaching we received was fight the impulse to talk about what you're doing while you're doing it. Fight the impulse to narrate. Fight the impulse to explain. Fight the impulse to verbally contextualize why you did something and what's happening and what this other person did and what it all means. Just do the thing and you can talk about it later. Stay in the exercise. Stay in the moment. Stay in the game. Do it while it's happening. Just do it. You can talk about it later. The first time I heard him say that, I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, whatever. No clue how difficult that would be or how profound it would be. I continue to think about that advice and that point all the time. In my embodiment work, I notice that one of the largest benefits, side effects, outcomes of doing an embodiment practice is becoming present. Because embodiment as a practice or as an experience is about awareness and focus. And the more you practice focusing, the more you become present. What I'm learning is that being present is an antidote to dread to fear. Not that it eliminates it, but it dissolves it, I would say. It dematerializes it. It works on it in a kind of catalyzing way. And it's almost like I'm imagining in my head when you would drop antacid or Alka-Seltzer or something in a glass of water and it just starts fizzing out. That's kind of what happens. So, when you're present, you're here. And that's kind of going back to my improv teacher's advice. Be in it. Be here. Resist the urge to pull yourself out of the present moment and start chattering and talking and narrativizing and narrating and talking and explaining and apologizing and contextualizing. Fight the urge to do that and get back in here. Get back in the present. What you are probably finding if you're in here with me, if you're in this world, and if you're in the process of cultivating various practices that help you to be in your body and return to your body, what you may be finding is that there are times where you hold yourself away from right now. You create distance between yourself, your sense of self, your awareness, and the present moment. You create distance. You hold the present away from yourself. You start talking about the future. You start talking about the past. You start fixating on a future unwanted condition. You start worrying about what might happen. You start projecting into the possibilities of the future and, oh, well, this is happening, so this must mean that, and blah, 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 blah. Or you do it going backwards. Oh, well, this happened in the past, so therefore such and such can't happen in the present, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of narrating. There's a lot of positioning, pulling yourself out of the present moment, back into the past or out into the future for relief. Because the heat, metaphorically speaking, the heat of the present moment can become intense. You're in the present moment and you're thinking, what is this? Where is this going? I don't know if I want this. So you pull yourself back into a more familiar past place, or you occupy yourself with the activity of worrying or projecting into the future or fixating at on a future moment. All of those things are ways of creating distance between you and the present, between you and right now, between you and what is, between you and reality, the reality of right now. The irony that I've been noticing, playing with, becoming aware of, settling into, is that the more I'm willing to be in it, the more I'm willing to be present, the more I'm willing to experience being present, the more I make room for experiences of being present when they arrive, the more willing I am to be in the present moment, the more willing I am to be here and not scamper off and run away and project backwards or forwards, the more I deepen my capacity for all of life, the more I deepen my capacity for everything, the more I watch dread dematerialize. This to me is a wonderful benefit and side effect. It's something I've been very curious about. lately? Like, what exactly am I experiencing when I experience dread? What is this? What is it? It's kind of like something that you see from far away and it looks solid. And then when you get up close to it, it's just kind of a mist that you can walk through. You know, it's something like that. It's something like a mirage. I think about a lot of things that have been difficult for me in the past. For example, doing networky things. That was always difficult for me. I've been self-employed since my 20s, and I've had little pockets of employment, salaried employment with organizations and institutions. I worked for a hospital, I worked for a university, and a college, and I worked for an IT company. Those are my 3 salaried positions. Other than that, I've spent the last 30 years as a self-employed person. All of those stints were, the longest one was about 2.5 years. That was my big triumph because the others didn't last that long. There was one for, most of them were about 2 years or 18 months. I think I had one for 18 months, one for 2 years, and one for 2.5 years. Those are my salaried positions. Everything else in my life has been about self-employment. Why did I bring that up? I was talking about the mist dematerializing, dread, and looming unwanted, and somehow I got onto work. Wow, I really completely lost my train of thought. Life as a tangent queen, not easy. Anyway, I don't remember why I was telling that story. I guess I'll have to go back and do a part 2 of this video. But part of what I'm thinking about right now is just the way that being in the, I was talking about networking. So as a self-employed person, I would have to, well, not have to, but I would find that there was a story I was telling about how I had to go do networky things and go into rooms with people I didn't know. This was something that I really did not enjoy. And I would say this is something that I would dread. But it was part of my heroic effort to be a successful entrepreneur, to push myself to go into those rooms and figure out how to do it. What is really weird about this phase of my life is that because I'm learning how to dematerialize dread, a lot of things that used to be difficult are now becoming more doable and more repeatable and sustainable. I won't go as far as to say that these are enjoyable things, but my orientation to some of these things has changed radically. And if you watched my video about craving, you understand exactly how I'm doing this. There is a practice of facing the self, holding the self, making room for the self, being with the self. Somewhere in the bowels of this YouTube channel are early videos of me doing this. It's like, hello, self. Hello. You know, it's like a metaphorical mirror, but not exactly. There is a practice of pulling your attention in to right now. a practice of pulling your focus back in to right now. This leads inevitably to an experience of a kind of a metacognition, thinking about thinking, making room for the context of what you're experiencing, not just doing a thing or talking about a thing, but being aware of the process, being aware of the experience of doing the thing. So being in a moment, inhabiting a moment, being inside of a moment, I call it the willingness to feel. I call it the willingness to feel. That's my personal definition of embodiment. I am willing to feel the sensations of this moment without judgment, without stories, without any of that. All of this is happening at once. So it's really interesting because on one hand, you are thinking, you are employing or attempting to employ language as you move through these different experiences. And on the other hand, there are moments of wordlessness where you're just aware of sensation. And there's a kind of play or flow between those experiences. I spent a lot of time in my, it doesn't matter when. I spent a lot of time before now trying to find language for what I was experiencing. Really feeling like if I could just name what's happening, I can solve this problem that I'm having, whatever it was, whether it was related to work, building my business, having money, changing the way I felt about my day, my emotional state, whatever my little issues were or big issues were. I felt like if I could just crack the code verbally with a flow chart and with a protocol and with words, I'll be good. Because I've always worshiped at the altar of words. Now, I love words. I am the word person. I have been a writer for 30 years. I have been a clarity seeker via language for most of my life. And as someone who is archetypally a teacher, I love words. And even as someone who is a lover of the arts, I love words. And obviously as someone who spent 30 years as a professional writer and graphic designer, I love words, even the way they look. That's what typography is about. So typography is about architecture and balance, but it's also about words and meaning. It's really interesting, actually. So yeah, I have a huge reverence and a soft spot for words. So to be in this practice for the last 5 years, where words are inadequate, words fall away, words are very slippery, and to make peace with the fact that the words are not the point, wow, interesting. And all of this is kind of coexisting. The love of words and the release of words happening at the same time. The willingness to feel, to me, is the way that we can dematerialize dread, panic, angst, and other difficult emotions. Not because we're getting rid of them forever, but ironically and counterintuitively, when we make room to feel those things, they start to morph and break apart and kind of become the mist, as I was saying earlier. I find this over and over and over and over again in different areas. I found it with emotional eating and food cravings and dealing with my body and the chemistry, the hormones and the all the experiences I was having around regulating my nervous system with food. I found it with making decisions about money and finding ways to remain debt-free while really rewiring and diving into new ways of surviving. I have found it in my identity professionally and redefining my identity, redefining what I want to do in this world, how I want to be of service, how I want to be paid, what I want my business and my work to look like. I have found that the willingness to feel is critical with relationships, with connecting, with learning to coexist with other human beings and be in the presence of people, learning to love more deeply, learning to listen more well, learning to listen better and more wholeheartedly. Listening is being with. It's not just an ear thing or a comprehension thing. It's a body thing. Really listening is being willing to be in a place where things are not necessarily the way you think they should be and to relax your shoulders into that. So I'll end by saying that there is a way that we can take in versus pushing away. It's natural and understandable that we at times will push things away or feel the need to push things away or to recoil or to run away or to retract. And when our capacity allows us to, it can be a really profoundly powerful practice to relax into the right now, the real time, the present moment, the game, the exercise, the what is, when we can. Sometimes we can't, and we don't need to worry about it. In that case, we're in a different kind of mode. Maybe we are in survival mode, and maybe that's completely appropriate. Maybe we need to survive this, whatever this is, of the moment. But when your capacity allows, it can be really helpful, strengthening, courage building, supportive, core strength building, muscle building, to make room for what is and deepen into that with a kind of physical relaxation, somatic willingness, like a willingness to physically drop the shoulders and unclench the jaw. I think of it as a workout, just like I would pick up a 5-pound weight, because yes, and use that while I'm doing other exercises. And the more I do that, the more I normalize holding the 5-pound weight while I'm doing other exercises, the more normal it becomes because I'm getting stronger. That's how you can move from a 2-pound weight to a 5-pound weight to an 8-pound weight, etc., because the body is changing while you're doing that. And it's very similar to that. So thank you for being with me once again while I'm riffing about embodiment. I'm really enjoying finding more and more people who are talking about the somatic elements of life from a kind of investigative standpoint, from a tactical standpoint, from a philosophical standpoint, from an experiential standpoint. I'm really enjoying that. I will see you again next time. Check the notes under this video for more information about me and my work. Coaching Books Podcast. All for you, all for you, all for you. I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.